Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here, so many of you. It helps when there's more, because it's more energy. Everybody breathing together helps you release whatever you need to release. So we're here today. We're blessing Alma and Babaji and Jesus, or the dream team. And Marcus told you we have the energy of Almaji for you today. And I'm still pretty shaky. It was very powerful to be with her. So I'm in a process integrating. The guru wants to take you beyond your present dimension. The guru, however, is like a spaceship. You're never going to be able to understand it. You would not know how to use a spaceship. So you just have to learn to be with it. Okay. Take off your glasses if you haven't done that, by the way. Without a guru, it's hard to make spiritual progress. I mean, you can, but it's very slow. You can't really transform yourself very quickly. Most people who walk without a guru, they just keep floundering and floundering. But through the grace of a guru, in one moment, with a clap of the hands, your life can change. However, it's never totally comfortable because the guru is going to break up all your limitations. Well, it should be our goal to attain the highest and the best, right? And not settle for anything less. Well, then, that's why we need a guru. Only a realized master can bestow the necessary grace and create the right conditions that will uncover and release your pain. The guru is kind of irresistible. People are drawn to them like a magnet. I mean, people were just drawn to Almaji like a magnet yesterday. And that's good. The relationship with her is incomparable. There's nothing like it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Babaji today because I said I would. And the last thing Babaji ever said when he took Samadhi, which means conscious departure, is he said, "I leave everything in the hands of the Divine Mother." Then he started sending us also to Almaji. So they worked together. I have gone to clairvoyants who saw them both sitting over my head together. So there's no conflict. They're one, and Jesus the same. So that's why I say, why not have the whole dream team in your life? For us, that's Babaji, Almaji, and the Divine Mother and Jesus. So we call them here for all of you today. Now, in the 1920s, Babaji did not have any known one place he would come and go. And he actually visited a little boy who was 6 years old, 5 or 6, I think, and just materialized his body in his room. Now, imagine if you're 5 years old and some guru just materializes in front of you without walking through the door and then materialize candy for you. You'd be pretty obsessed with that. And he couldn't stop thinking about it. When we got old enough, he started walking around India looking for that guru. And he couldn't find him. Then he got fed up and he said, "I'm going to lock myself back in my room and I'm not coming out until you come back to me, whoever you are." So then Babaji did appear to him and say, "What is it you want?" And Mahendra was his name. He said, "I want you to come back for the sake of humanity. We have so many problems here." So Babaji said, "Okay, for the next 25 years, you repair these temples and I will come back in 1970, which he did. And then Mahendra became a great saint as a result of that whole thing. So in 1970, Babaji did appear in the cave. Some of you have been there and you know how great that is. And the rest of you, we hope you come with us to Navaratri in the spring and you can go in Babaji's cave where he did materialize his body. And people saw a ball of light and then he came out. And he was so powerful that if people looked at him, they would pass out. He was so much pure spirit. He climbed on top of the mountain, Mount Kailash, over the cave, and he sat up there for 45 days and 45 nights, and he didn't eat anything or even drink anything. And he was just in meditation, and he had to keep his eyes closed because people would pass out. He was so much pure spirit. After 45 days, he came down. I did meet some people who met him. And I said, what was that like? Who met him then? I met him later. And they said they had constant visions of their past lives and their future. Anyway, so he started calling us Americans who had been with him in other lifetimes around 1974. And 77 is when I went the first time, I guess. Not 74, 70, that's when I started rebirthing. 77, that's when I went, right, Marcus?
Yes.
He remembers the dates better than I do. Yeah, 1977. And just getting there was such a powerful story, but I don't want to go into that today because I want to spend more time on him himself. When I finally got there, I had to cross the river 8 times and knee-deep water and sometimes up to my chest, and I had to put my passport around my neck in plastic. Anyway, I was so excited I finally made it, and I ran up the 108 steps. Now you can get there in a car. Everything's quite modern, but when I went, it's pretty primitive. We didn't even have running water, or we didn't have electricity or anything. It's pretty crude. Now it's very modern. I ran up the stairs, and I just was so excited, and somebody grabbed my skirt and they said, hey, you're supposed to bow to the guru. I said, well, where is he? And they pointed, and I had passed him. I didn't even recognize him because I was expecting a guru to be wearing satin robes and turbans, and I like fashion. And here was this guy dressed like a farmer with some gunny sack on and straw hanging out of his mouth. And he said, oh, Mrs. Sandra. I thought, what? That can't be him. Well, then later I figured out he greeted me as like I was a child because I was raised with farmers in this farm town, population 300 in Iowa. So he greeted me like a child, like I was a child. Well, anyway, I got up the top of the stairs and I had my second big test. My first test was getting there, which is a long story, but how I got from US to him in the first place is a long story, but now I'm there. My next test came up. All these flies attacked my body and I was just covered with flies. And I went, oh my God, I can't handle this. And I looked around, the flies weren't on anybody else but me. So I thought, oh my God, I must have a lot of resistance. So I threw myself in the ground and rebirthed myself. This is 10 minutes after I got above the steps, which was the right thing to do. Well, anyway, people were saying, well, if you have your period, you can't go in the temple in India. That's a rule. And I thought, that is ridiculous. And I got really upset about that rule. I said, thank God I don't have my period now. Of course, right at that moment, then I got breakthrough bleeding. In that very moment. And I thought, oh my God, what do I do now? I really wanted to be in the temple the first night. But anyway, I came up with this plan. I'll just sit outside and then I can hear the music and I won't be feel left out. So I was really proud of myself. Then the bells are ringing and Babaji comes out and he's wearing the exact fantasy that I had in my mind. Satin turban, satin robes, the color I wanted and everything. And he looked at me and he was like a long ways away. And he just gave me this look that was so powerful that I hit the ground. I literally fell over. And I said to myself, please let me surrender. And then I thought, are you going to go ahead with that plan? I thought, yes, I will, which I did. Then I got to the evening arti and everybody's chanting, and I'm sitting outside. And finally, he motioned with his arm, you come. And I thought, wow, he knows it's not my real menstrual period. And I was so excited, I ran in and sat down. And then finally he yelled, stop. And when he would yell, your whole body would absolutely shake. And then he said, you. He called me you for 4 days before I got my name. Are you a man or a woman? I said, I'm a woman. He said, well, you're sitting with, and he told me, sit over there. And here I was sitting with all the men. I didn't even notice that they were separate. Women and men were sitting separately. And I was so embarrassed. And, Leonard had said, you think you're so smart, Sandra. Babaji will have your case in 1 second. Which he did, because that was my birth. My father wanted a boy. So even then, he's already processing me on my birth. Well, anyway, it was all so intense. And some girls, he threw them out because he didn't like their energy. And he sent them to this temple, the fire temple. And I decided I wanted to go in and see how they were doing. So I asked permission if I could go in there. And there were these old yogis. They looked like they were 99 years old, sitting around the fire chanting. And one of them said to me, "You sit here." And then he started singing to me like I was the only woman in the universe. And it was all so romantic. I thought, what is going on here? How could I be turned on to a 90-year-old sadhu? And I said, well, what's he thinking about? What's he saying? I said to somebody, all he ever talks about is God. That was the answer I got. And then I went out of my body, and somebody, I couldn't handle it anymore, slapped me on the back. And I thought, I need to go lie down. So this is still my first night in Hirakan, just to show you the power of Babaji. I'm in my sleeping bag. Suddenly, Babaji materializes to me in the air in the most unusual form. He had old Hirakan Baba's body and a baby's head. No, I think it was the reverse. Baby's body with old Hirakan Baba's head. Right, that's what it was. And that's a different form. Old Hirakan Baba was the form he had in that I told you about earlier. And this was floating in the air, and it was so much energy. I started shaking and shaking and shaking, and it wouldn't go away. It stayed there all night, blessing me. And he was in the other room, obviously, somewhere. But there he was in that unusual form in the air. Finally, I woke up a roommate. I said, please get the Course in Miracles out of my backpack. And if you can believe it, that's when we had all 3 books. For some miracle, I had them in my backpack, I guess for this moment, because why would you take those to India? And I said, please read to me the words of Jesus or I'll go crazy with this energy, which he did. So that was my first night. Didn't really get any sleep. And the next day we're all down at the river, and Babaji says, you, meaning me again, give a speech. He said, you're a teacher. And this is when I was still, a nurse. I hadn't really started teaching yet, but this is how he prepared me. He saw my future, I guess, as a teacher. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do speaking in front of him? And what am I supposed to speak on? And I was terrified. And I thought, well, I'll just share. So I shared, what I had seen in my room with people sitting there. And then I thought, what if this isn't the right thing I should be speaking about? And I turned to look at Babaji, if he was judging me. And he's sitting on a rock coloring in a coloring book. And my thought was, he's on another planet. So that was my thought. And it took me years to remember that I told Marcus this when we had a discussion. And sure enough, he is coloring, painting while I'm teaching. So again, Babaji was showing me the future, And okay, this was just what I'm sharing with you now is just my first day there. I wrote a whole book on it. My meetings with the Maha Avachar. And I could talk for hours on Babaji, but it's time to breathe more now. And that's just to get you going with his energy. And, why not let his love in? He said, my love is available. You can take it or not. And since you are here in the rebirthing community, I want you to know that you do have his blessing. You are part of this lineage. Right here now, accept it, that you are part of his lineage and you're blessed and you can have his help. Bole Baba Ki Jai.
I'm just going to say a few words about meeting my teacher, Tara Singh. Tara Singh was well-groomed. He had been a student of Krishnamurti's for maybe 30 years, and he had just come out of 3 years where he spent in silence in Carmel. And shortly after that, he met Dr. Shukman, who was the scribe of the Course in Miracles. And he became her student for a solid 2.5 years right before she left her body. And she groomed him to present the Course in Miracles. And then I met him in 1989, and I knew immediately he was my teacher. And he could transmit not just the content of what the Course in Miracles was saying, but he could transmit the essence of what it is. And the essence of the Course in Miracles is obviously Christ consciousness. And my feeling was that Tara Singh was fully immersed in that, and he had realized that state of being in himself. So therefore, he was able to transmit that in his talks. And I was fortunate to be a student for 17 years. And that's why I'm so committed to the work of the Course in Miracles in myself, in the world. Sandra and I share about it all over the world. And that's one of our main missions. So I really feel I owe that to my tutelage with Tara Singh and the blessing of being in that lineage. For me, the lineage started with Krishnamurti and then was passed to Dr. Shukman and Tara Singh, and then I received it from him. So I feel eternally grateful for that. So, okay, that's our sharing on meeting spiritual masters. I won't go too much more into detail of my meeting with Tara Singh. All I can say was his first words to me were, "You know enough already, and I have nothing to teach, and a real teacher is here to undo." And that's pretty much what the Course in Miracles does as well. It says it's here to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. And it can't teach us love because that's who we are already, but it can remove the blocks. And that's what a real guru does. He removes the blocks to our true identity so that we can be as the guru. We can be in our God-created self. Bole Baba Ki Jai.